Hi, I'm Peter Brusso for 101 Small Business Mastermind, and with us today we have a guest, and that's Bruce Steever. Is that Did I pronounce that right? They seem to butcher
Correct.
everybody's names these days, but anyway. And of course we have Dick with us. Say hello, Dick.
Good morning, everybody.
And we have Mark Giardino. Hi, Mark.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
And Frank. Say good morning, Frank.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's get going.
And say hi, Bruce, just so everybody knows who you are.
Hi, Bruce.
There you go. Okay, so on my first go today, I took the liberty to do a Woorank for Bruce's website, and I'm hoping to get there in a minute. Let me see. That didn't work out well. Let me try that again.
Is that what you're recommending?
No,
Heard it.
this is a friend of mine for sure. Um, yeah, hang on here a second. Let me see if I can get back over and stop sharing. That is not what I wanted to share. Let me try that again. I did. I did select that. Here we go. Let me know when everybody's got it.
I
You got it. Yeah.
Yep. I
Okay.
had it until you talked. Yep.
All right. So basically, what Woorank is a service that I pay for to analyze websites, and you've got a 43.4 score out of 100. So it's below the average, but like I say, I've seen a lot worse. And what this does is it goes through, and we're just going to go down through this. You've got a page rank of 0, which basically Google doesn't trust anything you say or do. In time, that will change if you do the right stuff with it. You've got your titles or some issues there. Biggest problem you got is you have no descriptions on your pages, and that's really needs to get changed. It's easy to do, but you got to change it. You've actually got 4H1 tags. That's great. A lot of people don't have that. And this is one of those cases where, in fact, I talk a ton about keywords. And you didn't identify any keywords in your website, so they guessed. And they have your keyword cloud of exit, business, Bruce, owner, strategy, plan. There's no way you're ever going to rank for any of those words. Absolutely. Got to fix that downstream. I actually ran a keyword analysis on that, and basically, uh, like the term business, for example, there's 620 million web pages with that in it. So
Yeah.
that's pretty ridiculous. So that's the type of thing that needs to get changed. And then let me see here. Get back over so I can see the darn thing. Let me unshare and share again here. And this thing is really causing us lots of issues today. Okay, so anyway, back over here. So keywords, yeah, we'll get those fixed along the way here. Your images, they found 8 images, but you had no attributes or missing tags, and that's really important for your SEO. Do that. Text to ratio, there's below what the minimums are at 15%, you're at 11.7. So what that basically means is you add more text, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Easy to fix. This is a little scary. You have 3 pages, I know that I remember anyway.
Yep.
Only 1 is indexed in Google. That's a problem. So basically, that needs to get fixed. The Google Plus needs to get fixed with that. Backlinks counter, you got 69. Usually backlinks, and that's an SEO thing as well, an authority thing. There's game plans out on that I can help you with to get that up and going. Got a lot of good stuff. A lot of people are missing. You got robot code. You got an XML sitemap. A lot of people don't even have that. You're not using Flash.
Imagine if I knew how to do that.
Well, I think because you did the website thing, they just automatically did it for you. Missing a blog. Blogs are really strategic for SEO. And then your mobile rendering. You don't have a mobile site, but it does.
Nope.
It does redo itself, so to speak. Mobile time's very fast. That's good stuff there.
Yeah, I think I told you I won a contest when I was at one of my networking meetings where I won basically an upgrade and synchronization so that when someone went mobile or used a tablet, they'd be able to find my website and actually get the page to open up the right way, which is something I can't do on my own tablet.
Yeah, that and it shows basically.
Yep.
And so you should add a custom 404 page. That's not a big deal there. Printability, don't care much about that stuff. Down here, and then finally we get into some of the other stuff. So this is a key thing. We've been talking lots about analytics, Google Analytics. You don't have any, and so that's a priority to fix that. And then you've got 16 errors and 1 warning. You probably need to go through, and a lot of these canned programs that you use to build websites, unfortunately build in errors too. And if it's hard to read, or it's got errors, when a spider comes to visit that, then it just bounces back off. It won't even index you. And so that's something that needs to be looked at for sure. Not that concerned about depreciated HTML yet, but now this really needs to change. We've talked tons here on social media. You've got social media on the site, but you're not using any of it apparently, and you can see this just across the board here. Nothing's happening, and that social media marketing is something that's really, really important for your SEO. And then that's my Woorank. So that's a real quick look at things, and I'll stop sharing. So there you go. That's mine. All right. Any questions on that before we head over to Frank's stuff?
Is that something I can get a copy of?
Yeah, if you're nice to me, I can send it to you. Yeah. Of course, I'll give you a copy. Yeah.
I'm rubbing your forehead on the screen. Does that help?
Oh, I'm getting all kinds of warm and fuzzies here. This is all great. So, all right, good. Well, Frank, what do we?
I'd like to make
a
quick comment about all this.
Yeah, Mark.
Real quick. Now, again, I look at all this is very, very important in your SEO, and I look at everything that you just said. That each thing needs to be taken care of, and it's step by step, and you could do it on a daily basis. But once you start doing every step that you mentioned, Peter, you will see results. And I think you and I have a testament to our results on our web pages.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention each step that you mentioned is important, not like one or the other, but each one is just as important, and I call it an SEO puzzle.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, even Bruce's business card has got a puzzle on it, which is kind of cool. But I think the biggest thing too, Bruce, the biggest selling thing now at all is video. And if you were going to put in any money or anything, get some video on those pages. Really important. And Frank sent me this really cool list of stuff that I'll share next week, but video is high on that list. Okay? So, all right, Frank, what did we learn in the news this week?
Hear that? I love it, man. I have a lead in. I love it. Okay, that's enough. Shut up. Okay, Twin. This week in the news and small business lessons. This week we're going to do one, and the headline is Microsoft plans to cut 18,000 jobs over the next year.
Oh, shoot.
18,000. Those are 18,000 lives that are going to be dramatically affected. Now, it's hard to criticize a company that posts $5 billion in profit each quarter, and they have $88 billion in cash on its balance sheet, but I am going to criticize them. I am. Now, through Bill Gates' tenacity, innovation, and the Europe says antitrust measures, that he broke antitrust laws, Microsoft locked up the PC market before there was a PC market. And he again, nothing but praise for him. Then Bill Gates stepped down, and he named Steve Ballmer, a long-time Microsoft employee, as his replacement. Now, you may know Steve. He's been in the news recently because he is the guy who is trying to buy the Los Angeles Clippers for $2 billion by himself. That's B with a billion. That's just amazing. I mean, I try to save $2 in gas, and this guy's going out and spending $2 billion on the Clippers. Now, Steve is a hard ass. He's emotional. His temper flares at the drop of a hat, leader. And he's made his mistakes over the past, but I think I pull out 3 quotes from his history that I think tell the whole story. Quote number 1 on the iPhone, and I quote Steve Ballmer, $500 fully subsidized plan. That is the most expensive phone in the world, and it does not appeal to business customers because it does not have a keyboard. Steve showed his lack of vision, and eventually Microsoft says, well, maybe there is a marketplace. They came out with Windows Phone, and then Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 8, but it was really too late. All right. The next quote was on Google's Android, and I quote Steve Ballmer again. It is very hard to be excited about the Android phones. Apple is a good competitor, a different kind of competitor. You've got to be a genius to work the Android. Steve was equally dismissive as he challenged Android for being a confusing mess. Oh, by the way, Android accounts for 79% of all smartphones sold worldwide. And then there was this last quote. They asked Steve, well, who is important? And he says, developers were the most important. And this is precisely why the Windows Phone is struggling. It has very, very few developers. The Windows operating system became dominant because it had all the developer support in the world, of which I was one. When I was in the software business, we developed all of our software for the IBM mainframe, then the System 38, which became the AS400, and that kind of thing. Windows Phone has a lot less. And oh, by the way, another thing that hurt Steve Ballmer, PC sales, where Microsoft is a leader, is slipping worldwide. So it was time for Steve to go. Again, the stock did not grow, but it kind of hovered around the $40 mark. But it was a traditional stock. It wasn't a high growth stock. And they had to make a change. So they enter Satya Nadella as Steve Ballmer's replacement. And Satya came from Microsoft, and he is just as tenacious as Steve, though not as emotional. And he is determined to shift Microsoft focus away from traditional software into the cloud. And his mission has this very revealing quote, and I quote Satya Nadella. Our industry, which is the software industry, does not respect tradition. It only respects innovation. And to truly innovate, rather than trying to be all things to all people, Microsoft must pick the unique tradition that we want to make. So where Microsoft was the end all and everything, Satya says, no, we've got to go to the cloud, which they're doing well, and they bought Nokia phones to get into the mobile market, which is where the market is. By the way, 11,000 of those 18,000 cuts are going to come from Nokia. So the small business lesson from Microsoft is this. If a giant like Microsoft with $88 billion, that's what it'd be, $1 billion of cash in the bank, cannot afford to ignore the change in the marketplace, can you, the small business owner, recognize that your next customers, your potential customers, have dramatically changed the way they buy. Therefore, you must dramatically change the way you market to them. If you were the Satya, and you are the Satya Nadella of your small business, how are you going to market differently in today's marketplace? And that is today's twin for this week.
All right.
And I thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, anybody want to weigh in on that one before we move to the next piece?
Just one extra comment about Ballmer. He's the only guy in the world that thinks the Clippers are worth $2 billion.
I don't follow sports, so I presume that that's not good.
Well, the highest, again, only because Bruce brought, the highest paid up until that moment was, I think it was 800 million. And then because it's the LA market, by the way, and they rent the Staples Center. They don't own.
Yeah, they don't even own it.
No, they're tenants. So they're, I think Oprah and some other group, maybe a gentleman from Pixar or some one of those companies, put together a bid of 1.5 billion. And Obama came in and said, "Well, I'll just write a check for $2 billion out of my petty cash and make." And by the way, and Donald Sterling is still fighting that because he's an idiot. But, okay.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So for everybody, we're going to introduce Bruce Steever. Bruce, let's hear about your business and what do you do?
Okay. Well, I've got a script here. I'm going to try and follow and look at the screen every once in a while. My name is W. Bruce Steever. I'm a former CPA, serial CFO, and financial entrepreneur. I now operate a business as businessexitadvisor.com. My goal is to help the owners of small and mid-sized businesses convert their illiquid businesses into tangible liquid assets and wealth and enjoy a better and more relaxed lifestyle. What makes my business or my approach unique in the Coachella Valley is that I encourage owners to identify their needs and their families' needs and goals, determine their mental and financial readiness for an exit, and consider the most viable exit options. And then I guide the owner as we develop a customized exit strategy. And finally, and most importantly, I put together the necessary professional resources needed to execute that strategy. Planning without execution is a mistake. Executing without planning is a huge mistake. That's sort of my elevator speech, if you will. My background is fairly extensive. You've seen the profile. I'll go through it fairly quickly if you don't mind, because it's really the reason why I have the competencies to do what I'm trying to do. Professionally, I graduated from Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. I lived back east. My first job was a senior auditor with Arthur Andersen in New York City, which was, at the time, Arthur Andersen was the largest of the big A CPA firms. My daughter, at a later time, also worked for Arthur Andersen. When she left, Arthur Andersen went down the tubes because of the Enron, and I always like to tell people that Arthur Andersen never survived after it got rid of all the Steevers. I then went into the corporate world. I worked for a company called Studebaker Worthington, which is $1.5 billion New York Stock Exchange listed conglomerate. I moved to California when that business was sold and went to work with a couple of subsidiaries of a privately owned business here, whose owner was was on the board, or senior board director at Studebaker Worthington. My claim to fame, if you will, one of several. I was CFO and employee number 6 of a company called Quantum Health Resources, which is a chronic disease management firm that did home health care and mail order pharmaceutical processes, principally to people with genetic disorders, hemophilia, genetic emphysema, lupus, cystic fibrosis, things of that nature. We grew from 0 to 300 million in 6 years. That company moved to Indiana. I then founded one of the things I did, I co-founded a consulting firm in Orange County, which I did for a while. And I was on the board of Orange County Head Start in Orange County for 5 years as part of the process of networking in the county. Then the CEO of the Quantum Health Resources Company, which had moved to Indiana and been sold, called and asked me if I wanted to help him start up another company called Quantum Dental Resources. And I moved to Indiana in 2007, got back here in 2011. Among my accomplishments, I've done an IPO, I've done private equity and debt financing, I've done an $86 million convertible debt sale, I've done 4 poolings, and I've probably been involved in somewhere between 2 and 3 dozen mergers, acquisitions, sales, and divestments over time. A little bit about my personal life. I was born and raised in Jersey City and worked in New York, as I said before. I moved to California in late '81. Basically moved here to California when I finally realized I was allowed to leave New Jersey on my own free will. I'm divorced. I have 3 adult kids and 2 grandchildren. Some of my hobbies, I'm a foodie. I like to cook. I like to have wine. By the way, Dick, how did you do last night with your chili? Did you win place or show?
No, it didn't. The Win Places show went to the La Quinta Resorts chefs, and the fire. It's hard to beat. The fire department won the other one. So, but
really, the fire department stuff was crap. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have given that to my dog.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I
I will
think
remind everybody to use good language because I'll have to beep that out. So this goes up.
Mm.
I already got one on Frank.
Okay. All right. I like to read. I do crossword puzzles and Sudoku and Ken. I'm also sort of an overhill jock. I swam in college and high school. I was a single-digit golfer for a while, things of that nature. So sports is sort of my secondary hobby. What I do, and key helping a business owner, is I execute a 6-step exit strategy process that's meant to get the business owner to think about what he's trying to do, and then I try and help him shape his thinking. The first step is trying to identify the owner's exit goals. And when I say the owner, I really mean the owner, his family, maybe his management team, maybe even his customers. There are a number of constituencies, but clearly I try and spend time figuring out what their goals are going to be. The next, and probably as important a step as anything else, is I try and measure the owner's mental and financial readiness and identify a value gap, which is really the amount that the owner needs to raise to cover the difference between what he needs to live the rest of his life, his non-professional life, and the amount of money that he has on hand right now. So if he's got $1 million and it's going to cost him $3 million over time, based on his expected life expectancy, he needs $2 million out of his business or from some source if he's going to try and do it. I then try and, based on that evaluation of his mental and financial readiness, I then try and evaluate what kind of owner he is. And there's a quadrant that tells you what kind of owners, and I can show it if it helps. I don't know. Can you see this one?
Yeah, raise it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yep, and hold it
It's
still.
an XY quadrant, financial readiness and mental readiness, and there are obviously 4 different kinds of owners. And I can share this with people if you want. If you've got a low financial readiness and a low mental readiness, probably the answer for you is to stay and grow your business. If you've got a high mental readiness, and you're sort of tired of the business, but your financial readiness is somewhat low, you probably try and get out the highest price possible. If you've got a high financial readiness and low mental readiness, you may want to choose to continue to work on some sort of different options. You might want to do an ESOP or something like that. If you've got a high financial readiness and a high mental readiness, you're probably pretty well off and ready to move on. And so I try and help identify that status, and then using that, we try and determine and evaluate what the optimal exit strategy is. And, there are a number of exit strategies you can try. There's a sale to a new owner. There's a sale, to your management team. You can sell to a synergistic industry competitor. You can do some form of recap with a private equity group or some other group of investors. You can do an employee stock option plan. You can do some family succession and gifting. You can do charitable gifting. You can also stay the course. As I said, one of the options might be to stay and grow the business further because you're not quite ready. The worst case is, you look at it, you just don't have a real good answer, and maybe your answer in an exit solution is basically start thinking about winding down the business and cutting your losses. That doesn't make me a lot of money. It certainly doesn't make the owner a lot of money. But sometimes that's the best solution is, like I said, cut your losses. And the worser case, if you pardon my French, is whether the owner dies or becomes incapacitated on a job. That's an exit strategy, but that's not a very productive one. My career expertise, based on a number of years of dealing with startups and bigger sized companies, has been complemented by a current membership I have in an organization called Pinnacle Equity Solutions. And I have a close working relationship with Pinnacle CEO, who's a fairly well-known author named John Leonetti. I don't know, see this again. This book, Exiting Your Business, Protecting Your Wealth, is sort of the Bible in the business area, and it's the Bible that I use as my key reference as I'm trying to work with different owners. The process I go through after I, as part and parcel of the 6-step process is I spend most of my time analyzing the people involved with the business through a series of interviews with the key players, and then I spend a lot of my time reviewing the financials they have, both personal and business financials and tax returns. I try and evaluate the quality of the earnings, the trends, and I also do a SWOT analysis to try and figure out what some of the strengths and weaknesses are. I continue to be astounded by how few people understand, what SWOT is, let alone how to even go through it without having someone hold their hand. I look at the reported earnings, and I look at what a pro forma earnings might be for as far as looking at add backs and deductions. I gathered some preliminary due diligence information, analyze the specific pieces as if I were going to be the buyer or the seller. So I try and get some of those pieces put together. And then if we're ready to move on and have decided the approach we're going to take, I will then start to recruit a professional team of other advisors to the extent they're needed to support the business transaction. I found that most people have a CPA that does their tax returns, and he or she is really good for doing tax returns and not much good at anything else from the standpoint of helping do an exit strategy. The other person that's even more dangerous is the lawyer, who's the trusted advisor of the owner, and in many cases his expertise extends to sales contracts, office leases, employment agreements, things of that nature, and may or may not have ever done this kind of a deal. He may have started a company, but he has no real idea, or he or she has no real idea how to undo that situation. They're just not, lawyers are generally not geared to that. So what you need to do is bring in the right kind of people, and that might be a new CPA person, might be a new lawyer, might be an ESOP expert if that's the way you go. You might want to look to someone for IT or HR, insurance, any number of areas. My job is to figure out what areas I can help them with, what other areas they need some help in, where I bring someone else in from the outside. And again, we try and do this as economically as possible, and then start moving forward. And then the next step is to go through the process of helping the person with a transaction. I'm not a business broker. I don't bring business deals in per se. I try and find business brokers. I try and talk to the owner and see if he's got targets of people that might be interested in his business. We look at some of the transactions as pros and cons, whether you want to do an asset sale or a stock sale, and a whole series of things, including starting to gear up for legal issues and documentation along the way. And then as we get closer and closer to the deal, my goal is to make sure that all the players are staying on track. We're getting the due diligence done, and we end up with what hopefully is a smooth and successful closing. And then as part of the process, to the extent I'm asked to, I will try and help an owner with any post-close business or personal needs. And again, I'm not a money investor, I'm not a wealth management person, but maybe they need an introduction to somebody, and I know people in the Valley just like all of us do. My target market probably is people 45 years and up, and baby boomer owners of small and mid-sized businesses. I define that as probably $750,000 to $25 million in revenues. My geographic target market would be principally focused here in Coachella Valley, but I have some outreach into the Inland Empire, Orange County, and southern Los Angeles County. But my focus, certainly for the last year, has been focused here almost exclusively here in Coachella Valley. Having said that, I have clients in places like Muncie, Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, and Tampa, Florida. That's sort of what I do in a nutshell. As a wrap-up, I don't know, this group is more senior than a lot of the other groups. I like to refer back to Woody Hayes. He was one of the Stone Age football coaches ages ago, and he had a pragmatic thought about the forward pass, saying 2 of the 3 things that happen are bad. You don't complete the pass, or you have an incompletion or an interception, or 2 of the 3 options. Well, business exit strategy is sort of the same way. I look at it as you turn the keys over to new owner and walk to the bank with a check, or you turn the keys back to the landlord and you walk home with tears in your eyes, or third choice and worse, you get wheeled out in a gurney. And that happens way too many businesses, and it happens because people didn't start thinking and planning ahead. You can't predict when you're going to get sick. You can't predict when you're going to die. The odds are you're going to be sick and you're going to die eventually. And so my overall model is I try and connect the pieces for your exit strategy and go from there.
Very cool. Anybody want to open up on that?
Well, I just, I know, Bruce, you said that 45-year uh, age bracket and the baby boomers and all, but at what point should say a 45-year-old guy, really start looking at that exit strategy? I mean, is it 5 years, 2 years? I mean, is there a time frame that is ideal for you to get involved if the person is interested in the next 2 or 3 years, or if he's going out 10, is that too far for you?
Well, 10 years is sort of pushing my shelf life in a way, but my
Yeah.
theory is you look at it, it's never too early to start thinking about this process. And the reason I say that is because there's so many uncertainties. To the extent you can start planning contingencies to address some of those uncertainties, you're better off. Now, a 45-year-old person who's been doing real well in the business and is getting tired, wants to branch out, do something else, maybe wants to work a little bit less, he may be starting to think about, okay, what's my next step? Well, he should be talking to somebody, whether it's me or somebody else. He should be talking to someone real quick and starting to think about, what's he want to do when he grows up. And when I say he, I meant he and she, of course.
Of course.
It's hard to say they. This gender thing is a bitch a bear when trying to write stuff. I apologize. So it can be any time. My theory's always been sooner rather than later. It doesn't cost anything to talk to me. Maybe a cup of coffee, depending on who picks up the tab. And my whole process is to start evaluating and understanding not what the person thinks he needs, which is part of the process. More importantly, trying to identify those items that are really nagging him and that he really needs to address that he may not have put in the front burner where they belong.
Okay.
Right.
I have a question for you. What's your greatest challenge in your business today?
My greatest challenge today is it's sort of like Johnny Appleseed. I go out and throw apple seeds all over the Coachella Valley, and for better or for worse, there's a lot of barren rock out here. And so my challenge right now is to identify enough people that have a need and want to talk to me about filling a need and going forward with an exit. Someone who's a $300,000 business probably doesn't make sense. It's just not enough. There's not enough money in it for me to get involved, and probably not enough money in it for the owner to think it's worth the time. That's why, my normal thing when I first started this business and was in Orange County, I was thinking of a $5 million floor, maybe $2.5 million. I've lowered the floor out here to under $1 million to be, responsive to the marketplace. My rates are not cheap, but I am relatively inexpensive. If you went to a decent-sized accounting firm, you could probably pay more for a semi-senior or a senior auditor than you would pay for my services on an hourly basis. I don't give away my time. If someone comes in and thinks I'm too expensive or wants me to give away my time, I'll send them over to Robert Half and tell them to get a temp person to help, because you're going to get what you pay for.
Next question: how do you find your customers? What's your strategy for finding new clients?
Well, it's obviously not my it's obviously not my website.
Well,
based on any number of reasons, but yeah,
clearly.
Primary thing is networking and word of mouth. I've spent most of the last year going to a bazillion meetings to try and meet people. It's not necessarily the most effective way, but I'm not selling a product that's shiny and reflects nicely in the sunlight or in the light. I'm selling something that's a fairly specialized service. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and I need to develop, as part of the process, credibility in a relationship with an individual before we go to the next step. And that's part of the challenge. Like I said, finding the right kind of customers is the first step. Finding the right kind of customer who is ready to move and ready to move with me is the second challenge. And that's I just keep working at it and looking for more and more people. When I met Dick and he told me about these groups, I said, oh, good, this gives me exposure and contact to some more people. And that's what I'm constantly trying to do.
Yeah, it just strikes me too that your prime people you want to meet are CPA firms that have a book of business, that you might be able to engage them in.
Yeah, CPAs and lawyers, those would be the
Yeah.
two primary things. Bankers would be a third choice. But like I said, the funny part with CPAs and lawyers is they are both defensive and protective of their territory. And in a lot of cases, they have reason to be so.
Well,
Yeah, they're just-
it would strike me too, though, that if you approach them that you're an asset that they can also get paid by using you, you become not a threat, but rather
Yeah.
another tool in their tool belt to make some cash flow. Next question I have, do you raise venture capital for anybody? I mean, your CFO background certainly would spell out that you know how to raise money.
Yeah, I've raised several $100 million over time, and the answer is out here. There's just not that many candidates. Plus, that's not a good way to make money very quickly.
Well, yeah,
'Cause,
but
someone's trying to raise money, that means they don't have any.
well, sure, but sometimes it's important to raise money on an exit strategy to take the business to the next level, make it look shiny, more attractive, and get more cash out of it. So I've always hired CFOs that have a track record for raising
Having
money.
said that, when you say raise money, you talk about venture capital. That's more front end, Peter.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if they're a little further along and they're trying to figure out what to do, I will help them. If I look at that and they agree that that's a critical step, towards developing an exit strategy, I'll help them with that.
Yeah.
And not only will I help them with that, I'll help them make their books better. I'll help them make their systems better, and I'll try and position them even if they need to. They may need to buy a company or to sell a company.
Right.
Sometimes the first part of an exit strategy is to go out and expand your business through maybe a small or even less than small acquisition to make it a bigger and better business so that you're more you're more marketable.
Okay, yeah, and that was where I was heading with that, as a tool to take a company in a short term to another level to make them worth more. Raising money might be a good thing. Another question. I don't mean to monopolize the questions here, but websites are so key now to businesses, most businesses anyway, that digital rights property is worth something. How do you dial their web presence into a business's evaluation of worth?
It depends on the nature of the beast, what kind of business it is. I don't spend a great deal of time on that. If they've got a website that's a disaster, defining disaster as something that's worse than mine, I will try and introduce them to someone who can help them get that better.
Well, what I mean by that is, for example, I have a website that I sell stuff on the web. And I've spent, hundreds of thousands of hours, building that site. And it's the key thing. The physical site, my physical business is worthless in the bigger picture, but I'm totally digital. And I know for a fact, like there's a computer repair company in India that I work with, and we've spent a fair amount of time on their digital presence to not only help get new clients, but that's a key piece of their business now. And another client, Charlie Moroni's Italian Food in India, one of their key pieces is their website that I did that they take reservations from, etc. So, it used to be the old days, you walk into a brick and mortar and that's what you're going to see and that's what you evaluate. But nowadays, half of what they do is in fact impacted by the web. So my question was, how do you evaluate that? That was my question.
Yeah, it's a case by case thing. That's not my strong suit. But it's something. If it's something that looks like it's broken, I'll try and figure out a way to help them fix it. And again,
right.
I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I'll bring someone else in or make a recommendation. What I find is a lot of cases is, and a concern as part of my business, like I said, I'm throwing apple seeds all over the ground. Sometimes it's barren. Sometimes someone's interested, and a problem they have in their business is the business. And so there is no business the day they walk away. And so part of the process of helping someone, develop an exit strategy is trying to figure out how to maximize the value of that business. And if they go away, and there's no business left, then it's probably not an exit strategy.
Well, it is an exit strategy, not the one you want, not the one you want to end up with. But clearly,
I call that one number 2, where you hand the keys back to the landlord.
Yeah. Now I have one other question. Apologize for monopolizing these things, but I do a lot of. I don't do a lot of. I do business plans and have done so for many people in my own businesses, but. You're right. People don't understand what a SWOT analysis is. So why don't you tell the listeners what the heck a SWOT analysis is and why that's so important?
Okay, the listeners being people here.
Well, no,
yes,
the people are going to view this podcast. People are going to view this podcast. So yeah.
Got it. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting. I'm thinking the small group versus the larger group that's going to listen to this. SWOT analysis is where you look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing a given company. You set up an XY graph, and you have strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, and you go through in great detail and help the owner evaluate his strengths. And in many cases, it's not just the strengths of the businesses. You're also doing a personal SWOT analysis where you're trying to evaluate the individual's greatest strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Because sometimes they're different. Sometimes they're far different from what the business is. And if you're going to do a successful exit strategy for that person, you have to look at both the business and the person's personal side of the equation. And so, someone's strengths, I always, biggest strength is, I got 4 decades of experience, meaningful hands-on experience in a variety of businesses. So I look at that as one of my strengths. Opportunity is I've got a marketplace out here that's grossly underserved, and so that's what I'm trying to do. My weakness is I don't know how big that market is until I try and explore it further, and the threat is that there's someone out there that does a lot of the same traits as Bruce Steever and decides to come out here and compete with me. I believe the market is more than ample size that can take a whole bunch of Bruce Steevers and be able to operate, efficiently for the benefit of the owners who need to start thinking about exit strategy and moving forward with their business. The worst step an owner can do is nothing.
Apathy is probably the worst thing. I agree with that.
Well, what do they say? Apathy and ignorance, and I don't know and I don't care.
I even forgot about that. I'm too old to worry about that stuff. Anyway, Frank, you want to jump in here?
Yes. Yes, I do. Okay, Bruce, you identified your target market as $750,000 to $25 million in revenue, top line.
Yeah.
In the Coachella Valley. Coachella Valley. You can go to Reference USA has a site that you can go on for free that'll tell you how many businesses fit that criteria. And you can also say the owner's got to be 45-year-old plus. You have that kind of filter. Have you done that yet for Coachella Valley?
I did it a while ago. I did parts of it. I didn't go with a full research, but I didn't come in here blind without thinking about what the value was.
So give me a bet. You think there's 100, there's 500, there's 1,000 businesses that fit that criteria in the Coachella Valley? What would be your best guess?
It numbers in the thousands.
Really, that many? Wow.
Well, okay. Dick, let's have Dick pull that up and give it a shot.
Yeah, there's 22 billion. Hang on a second, I might have a chart here in front of me. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If not, just bear with me.
Okay.
I don't have it handy. There's
all right.
Of the companies that exist. The vast majority of businesses are 10 people or under. Literally 95% of the businesses in the country are 10 people or less. And those similar statistics are true here in the Coachella Valley. There are an awful lot of 1, 2, 5-person companies. And there are going to be some that are just too small, for any number of reasons, including the bandwidth, the intellectual and business bandwidth of the owner. And there are others that are bigger than we think. There's some businesses out there that are almost invisible that are $2 and $3-4 million businesses.
Plumbers.
And so, I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out where they are. And my primary strategy so far has been to get myself in front of business owners where I can, and in front of the advisors to those business owners to develop relationships, where they'll introduce me to some of their people and say, oh, yeah, I got 3 guys that need an exit strategy or are thinking about exits right now. I need to introduce you to those people. I just had one of those, a lunch meeting like that yesterday with someone who I think is part of this group. Mark Jalone, you know him?
Yeah, he's part of our group for sure.
Yeah, Mark had seen my profile, and we did exactly what I like to see happen. We got together, we met, and we're talking about doing some joint presentations together, and he's got a couple of clients that he says absolutely need somebody that does what I do.
He's a good resource.
Whether I'm the one.
Yeah, he's a good resource, good guy. Yeah. Well, I think all of us are for that matter, but I mean, Mark is certainly networks and tries to help his clients and network. He networks us too as well. People need websites, and he passes their names to me. So he's a great guy, good businessman too.
Yeah.
Besides,
I was impressed. I also met his
partner,
his cohort.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's this guy's name?
I forget his name.
Bear with me.
We've all met him, though.
Yeah, we met him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was at that luncheon at Ciro's.
Exactly.
Was it Clint?
Clint.
Like Clint?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think I have his card here too somewhere, but so that's good. Okay, Frank, you want to keep going there?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Bruce, again, and I have a method to my madness here. Let's assume you have 1,000 that fit your criteria.
Yep.
45 plus to $750,000 million to 25 million. They could be solopreneurs. They could be 5 employees or whatever it is.
Yep.
Okay.
And they could be bigger. Size isn't necessarily a constraint, other than the fact that some of the bigger companies are harder to break into because, among other things, they have better professionals. They can afford to hire higher quality of professionals. That's a little bit of a barrier to entry. There's nothing more challenging than trying to convince a lawyer that you and other people know more than he does.
You don't have enough time left on this earth to do that.
I'm sorry?
You have a shelf life. You don't have enough time on this earth to convince a Dow Chemical to bring you in.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even miss a breath to do that. So I wouldn't even. I'm not even thinking. That's why it's 25 million, maybe 20 million is my top. I know some of the people that I'm involved with that are fellow members at Pinnacle Equity Solutions that have a larger group. There's 2 or 3 or 4 of them working together in other parts of the country. There's really nobody out this neck of the woods, and they'll deal with bigger companies. But that's a feast or famine situation.
Yes, and they have the feet on the street and everything else at the time, and the bankroll to play with that. Okay, so let's define this as one people who need Bruce the most. Okay, whatever that is, and we're picking 1,000 numbers in Coachella Valley. Now, statistics have shown that 1,000, 30 are currently looking for exit strategies, and I'll tell you, chances are who they're talking to. Their CPA and their attorney, or their cousin, right? So a very competitive market. Let me see. I got to do the others. 370 of them. 370 of these people have thinking about it, but they haven't decided to do anything about it, and they're eventually actively doing anything today.
Yep.
300 people have thought about it and say, if I can't do it myself, screw them. I'll never pay anybody to get out of this business. My father sold it to my cousin. There's no way in hell. And then the other 300 people I call, hey, what's happening? They're clueless. They have no idea what the hell. And you can talk them till you're blue in the face, and they'll be polite and have a glassy stare because they have no idea, and they could care less. Okay?
Yep.
So 30 and 370 of those numbers. The 30, I say, is they're very active. The 370 is your gold mine because they've thought about it and they haven't decided what they're going to do. Now, obviously, the challenge is how the hell do you get those 370? Because if you knew that, you could just go bing, bing, be like dominoes. Because you have the wherewithal, you have the experience, you have the personality, you have the track record, you have they need you the most. All right. So that's always a challenge. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have these 370 people contact you and say, hey, Bruce, I heard about you, I've seen you, or somebody told me about you. I am not in a position to buy, and I'm definitely not going to give you any money today, but can we just have a chat? You would love those chats at a Starbucks or at Pete's Coffee, whatever. We had Pete's Coffee in Orange County. I don't know what we have out here.
We have the coffee bean.
Right. So the thing is, how do you get that? And you get that not by trying to sell them, but by giving them some of your valuable information. If I asked you, I said, Bruce, could you talk for 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll videotape you on the 3 biggest mistakes small business owners make, and we'll define them as 3/4 to 25 million, make that hurt value of their business. You can easily do that, correct?
Yep.
And then if I say, well, let's do another video, Bruce. How about the 3 things small business owners, including, but I'm going to talk about solopreneurs in a minute, the 3 things business owners can do that cost nothing, that will increase the value of their company if and when they're ready to sell down the road. You could tell them 3 things they could do on that, right?
Probably.
Right. And if I was one of these 370 and I could get access to that anonymously, in other words, you can't bug me, but if I like what you're saying, I'm going to say, hey, Bruce, I just saw whatever your video, because we're talking about video cast or podcast, and I'm not really, and they always say, I'm not going to buy anything, and I'm not going to, that type of crap, that's okay. I like what you said. Can we just talk for a minute about this? That's your pipeline.
Sure.
That is your pipeline.
And you hit a key word, they want to do it confidentially. What I found that surprised me a little bit, and I don't know why I was surprised by it, was how paranoid people are about thinking and talking about exit strategy and what will happen to their business if the word gets out. They're afraid it'll be like a run on a bank. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, but I'm not going to try and argue one way or another. That's what they think. That's what they think. But it's amazing, what you do. So the approach I try and take is, like you said, is get in front of somebody, be able to have a chat. And a lot of times I'll talk about exit strategy very broadly, but it's more like, trying to understand what their business is and what I can do. My business card has 2 pieces. I'm an exit strategy advisor, but I'm also an as-needed CFO. I'm sorry. I try to promote myself. And so I use that as a card. Matter of fact, my most recent client has nothing to do with exit strategy right now. It's as-needed CFO. But part of what I do as the exit strategy is I try and figure out ways to make your business bigger and better so that you're going to get more money when you sell. And all of this is basically a relational approach rather than a transactional approach. I'm not a business broker. The business broker has one thing in mind. He wants to sell a company and make his commission. What I'm trying to do is develop the relationship and help across a number of different fronts, with the end result being that the business gets sold for the benefit of the owner, not for the benefit of any single player in the game.
You are exactly what these 370 people need. My suggestion is that you continue to do your planting, your Johnny Apple. I call it a Johnny Apple seed. You're just planting seeds all over the place. But I would also put together a strategy of creating a couple of videos that you can put up, and then you can work with people like Peter to how to get invisible and so forth, and let people experience Bruce anonymously, because they feel safe with anonymous.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, and it's a quick 3 to 5 minute video. Here's the 3 things, the three things you can do today that cost nothing, increase the value of your company when you sell. And oh, by the way, if you would like to learn the 3 biggest mistakes you're probably doing today that's going to hurt your value of your business when you pass it on to your son, daughter, or you want to sell it, just send me your email address, and I'll send you a link.
That may be one of the 3 biggest mistakes right there, is passing it on to your son or daughter.
But there you go. But they don't know that. But I'm saying intrigue them when they say, hey, I got another thing that I can sell you. All I need is your first name, so I can be a little bit. I don't need your telephone number or your address. I don't care about that. Your first name and your email address, and I'll send you a link to a video that, if you're interested, and the 370 will be interested, the others, we could care less about them. give that, and now you're building a relationship with them. And then the next step is your coffee cup, your coffee meeting,
Yep.
and the next step after that, some of them will become clients because you work with them every step of the way, in the beginning and at the end.
Yep.
Now, getting back to solopreneurs, of which we are here. Let me go to extreme. You have a guy who's doing $750,000 selling apples from an apple cart in downtown India. Okay?
Yep.
And you could help him as well. Let me tell you why. The fact that he was able to sell $300 million worth of apples from an apple cart in India, we could put together a quick little blurb, series of videos, a little ebook, and he could sell his expertise as part of his exit strategy. What he has learned, he could create a video that we could sell for $9.99 on Amazon. The 10 biggest mistakes that I made selling apples from an apple cart. And I'm using that as an extreme example. Or the 3 things that I did that nobody else is doing selling apples that allowed me to come to do $750,000 a year. That would sell like hotcakes. So everybody has value. Everybody has something they can cash out when they're ready to go to Sun City, like where I live right now. And so I think you bring a lot of value. I envision you as, and I watch a lot of flipping houses because I can't do any of that stuff. But you can come in and you get the business ready to be sold like a house, do the flip, and then you do the staging just before the open house. So it looks the best it can be with the EBITDAs and all the pro formas and everything else that you do, so that they get maximum value when they're ready to exit. You bring a lot of value to the table.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and that was the end of my diatribe. And thank you for listening. I hope it's.
Oh no, I appreciate it. And what you say is is spot on. You start out with an EBITDA, call it $100,000 EBITDA. Positive cash flow, something like that. The multiple is 6, so there's a $600,000 business. Maybe he's doing $1 million in revenues. He's probably not going to be happy with that. Well, when you go and start scrubbing the business, you'll find he's got 75,000. Well, let's make it 100,000 of personal stuff that flows to the business and is going to go away. So now all of a sudden his adjusted EBITDA is 200,000, and a multiple of 6. It's now $1.2 million instead of 600,000. If I can figure out a way to help him make his business sexier, maybe, just maybe, his multiple becomes 8, and now all of a sudden his business is worth $1.6 million. So we went from 600,000 on paper to something north, into the 7-figure area, based on basically just looking at the business and figure out a way to optimize the strengths of that business. It's part of the SWOT process. Minimize the weaknesses and optimize the strengths.
That is a great story, Bruce, and that could be packaged as a story. Whether if it's true, you say use an example. If it's not true, you say once upon a time, and people know you're making something up. Once upon a time, and people can relate to that story. And if I think with Bruce, I can go from 600,000 to 1.6 million, I would look a chance to see because that's my while having a cup of coffee with Bruce. And then once you meet them face to face over a cup of coffee, then it's 100% on you whether they buy from you or not.
Yep.
But all you want is a cup of coffee. That's what you want, is that opportunity to say, hey, you might be interested. I might be able to help you. In 20 minutes to a half hour, you'll know if you have something value there, and so will they. And bang, there you go.
I agree. I don't know if you know the old joke about the Indian sitting on the reservation, and the tourists show up, and they go up to him, and he says, "Chance," and they look at him and say, "What?" He says, "Chance," and the tourists say, "Aren't you supposed to say how?" He says, "Me know how. Me want chance." That's sort of how I'm trying to run this business. I know how. I want a chance, and everything I do is geared to getting those FaceTime in front of the right kind of people.
Well, and on that note too,
it's been a big help in a very short-term basis for me.
In that same vein, on Frank's stuff, we're big believers in vignettes of podcasts, that people can go listen to get to know you. And the other thing you might think about, I do video reviews of websites, and I have an Excel checkoff sheet, literally, that goes down through the best practices. You might consider doing something like that you could actually deliver via mail, lumpy mail, or like we've talked last week in priority mailboxes to those high value
Yeah.
clients as a checkoff sheet, approach, some tangible item that they can take away and look at and, well, this is interesting thinking here, that kind of stuff. So that's another thought I had for you.
Yeah. One thing that I have tried, and I jokingly call it my semi-monthly, quarterly constant contact letters. It's something I started earlier when I was doing some other consulting before I focused exclusively out here on business exit strategy. Using that kind of constant contact to reach out to people on my email list. More importantly, what I've been doing more recently, when I joined the La Quinta Chamber of Commerce, they told me I had the ability, if I was interested, of publishing general purpose articles in the monthly GEM newsletter. And so the first month I got a 200-word intro about who and what I was, and a 500-word description, a general purpose article about exit strategy. And I've been doing that, and that's part of my reach out program. It costs me nothing except a little bit of time to write an article. Some of the articles I write are basically from Pinnacle Equity Solutions, because they give me, as part of my membership, a group of newsletters each quarter that I can use for my own purposes. And having the La Quinta reach out has been a big plus for me. Literally, the first issue came out, I had 6 people contact me in 4 days. It hasn't been quite the same rate since that, but that is one of my resources, is having people see me in the GEM newsletter. And I'm just trying to get more of that, more exposure the same way.
On your website, is there a way to sign up for a newsletter?
My website is rudimentary to the extreme. I did it to have a website. I've done nothing with it, and it's pretty obvious. And so, one of my goals over the, one of my newly founded goals, based on, part what you told me today and part with what I know already, is I need to expand and upgrade my website significantly, and I just haven't focused on that.
Well, yeah, I didn't mean to beat up on the website.
No.
Gathering, I use Aweber, and I highly, constant contact is a similar item, but I weigh heavily in gathering those lists, and you offer a free ebook or a PDF or something to get them involved with you. Also, a shameless plug, those small vignettes could go on a CD-ROM like that too, that gets looked at, as well as you use that same property that you those same vignettes, put them on the website as well, but send people to see those. But we should talk, or you can watch last week's episode where we talk about lumpy mail and then sending stuff directly in to clients via priority mail, and doing that 6 times. We call it sledgehammer routine. 6 times, it has a phenomenal return rate to it. At least I have seen that. So that's another thing.
Really, in snail mail, you found it. I used to be. I was Bob the Dinosaur from the Dilbert cartoon for a number of years, and I finally upgraded myself to Robert the Dinosaur, which means I can actually spell technology without help, but I'm not much better than that. So, to me, one of the things I learned as I moved into the 20th century, at least, was that, I basically stopped doing everything with snail mail. I don't look at it. If I get something from somebody, unless it says you won $1 billion on the outside, I really don't even, I don't even open my mail. The only mail I really spend time on is a couple of the magazines that I get.
Well,
I'd be interested to talk to you more about that.
Point of fact, if I sent you a DVD and material in a priority mailbox like this, would you throw it away or would you open it up?
I'd open it up, and then depending on what it was,
exactly. It didn't get in the round file right away like other stuff does. You're not going to throw priority mail away. And that's why I say you pick, and you get one each week. Each week they
Yeah.
get something different, and I tell you, it's got gold all over the darn thing, you know.
Peter,
Yeah.
I just want to say, in the bookstore, I receive a lot of mail and solicitations, but if I receive that priority
You'd open
envelope, I would open
it.
it.
Absolutely. Nobody's going to throw it
Right
away.
now, I would open it.
Yep. Absolutely.
I do too, but it's usually a creditor.
Well, yes. I bet the bad news can come in
Exactly.
those things for sure.
Yeah,
But
still force you to open it.
the first time they open it and they see your smiley face and a DVD with the 10 stupid things that people do on not thinking about exit strategies, for example, and
Sure.
they are not going to throw that away. I don't think, anyway. The next week they get another box from you. Wow, now what's in this box? Now you've got a curiosity factor going. Why is this guy sending me this stuff all the time? And it's good stuff, you know, and it goes back to what Frank...
What you're talking about is more targeted approach to how I'm using the gem. My last 2 articles in the gem are, top reasons, excuses why business owners don't focus on exit strategy, and the more recent articles why they do. One earlier was trying to explain the difference between transactional and relational advisors. So I'm using that kind of content and basically shotgunning it. What you're talking about is taking a rifle and having better aim on who your target is. I want to spend some more time talking to you guys about that.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be my counsel is that there's a number of these tools and you can cross-pollinate these tools from one media to another one. That's obviously a direct mail campaign media, but you can certainly put it on websites. You can certainly then create the constant contact links back into that, that kind of stuff. So, and leave behinds, one of the coolest things, like I'll go back to another shameless plug, but when you pull this out, and people go, wow, what is on that? Wow, that's so cool. They're going to look at that thing, and those that's what you want. So gain that cup of coffee, like Frank says. Matter of fact, on the front of this is redeemable for a cup of coffee with me.
That's cool. I like that.
But I think Frank's completely correct with that. Your kind of service, you want to get across from somebody and build that relationship, and it's more of a relationship sell than it is anything else.
Yeah, no one's going to go on Facebook, or just to pick one. And again, I'm not a big Facebook fan yet. No one's going to go on Facebook and say, "Oh God, there's an exit advisor. I want to sign him up." Well, what I have to do is I have to get to a situation where I can go face to face, and then I start building up the trust and the confidence that a person will feel comfortable thinking about working with me, then maybe going the next step and actually doing it.
Well, don't undermine the fact that social media is an idiot check on you. And what are people saying? Who is this guy? Is he really as good as he says he is? So it goes to credibility. I mean, they may not pick you that way, and by the way, don't discount that one either, because social media, they do an awful lot of picking on social media these days. And by the way, 92% of the people that make a recommendation through social media take it. So if somebody was talking or saw you talk on, connect your video podcast into Facebook and saw you, say, you got to look at this guy, and they'll do that. So don't, because Robert the Dinosaur may not understand or think he can get clients via social media. I would debate that one with you, but more importantly, it goes to the bottom line of credibility.
Just to jump in, Facebook announced earnings yesterday. It's $2.8 billion for the quarter, up 61% from last year's quarter. And all of it, most of the growth is coming from advertising on mobile devices. And they do this with 8,000 employees, which is unbelievable. And they're not hiring. So
Darn.
There has to be a reason why they're growing like that. The advertisers are flocking in spades to that medium.
Yeah, I'm trying to get together with Zuckerberg for a cup of coffee so I can talk to him about an exit strategy.
Good luck on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck on
I think
that.
I'd have to give him a roofie.
Yeah, for sure.
Good
For
luck,
two.
good luck on any of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Anybody else got anything?
No.
Nope.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for the opportunity to explain a little bit about myself. I welcome your comments and feedback. I'm not afraid of brickbats, and I'm not afraid of attaboys. So if there's some attaboys at some point, I wouldn't mind hearing them too, so I can focus on my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and it makes the show. We're actually over an hour now, easy. So, but again, it was very natural, very organic, and very cool. So,
Yep, thank you.
You bet. We'll be working with you. I'm sure downstream here.
Yep.
Good stuff, and I think you're in a big fish in a small pond, and that's a good place to be.
Yep.
So, all right, let's go down the line. Dick, you have anything you want to close with?
No, I think it was a good session. I learned a lot listening here, and I appreciate Bruce coming on and taking the time, and good, I think good hour spent.
Yeah, me too. Mark, any closing thoughts, sir?
Well, again, I want to thank Bruce for coming on board today, and again, I learned quite a lot information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This stuff is getting really rich as usual. Dan, Frank, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, it happened again, and it's always happened. I always feel better at the end of this than I did at the beginning, and I thank that.
I love this stuff. I mean, it's getting really good stuff. And Bruce, how did you feel with all of this? You felt comfortable?
Well, I was scared to death about 2 of 9, or really 20 of 9 because we were already starting. Once I saw my face on the screen, I got over it, and I felt pretty good. And it's interesting because in another hour and a half, I'm doing a presentation, a smaller presentation with the Palm Desert Area Chamber of Commerce. And so you guys gave me a really good dress rehearsal. I have less time, but you helped me focus on some of the things I'm going to say, at that luncheon. So thank you on many fronts.
Excellent. Get somebody with a phone to record that. We can make a podcast out of that, okay?
Got
it. Don't waste the opportunity. Grab some video. You can always decide not to use it, but boy, anytime, that's good. All right, well, okay, guys, say goodnight, Dick, and we'll sign off.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
All right, hang on, guys.
Good night.
We'll stop recording.